Part 39. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 381. Chapter 381 Return to the Moonlight Rotating Bar. No, Xiaoling said quickly, her voice changing the tone. Facing Zhou's mother's puzzled look, she forced a smile and racked her brains to think of words. It may not mean that I'm pregnant. Zhou's mother, buy me a pregnancy test stick. Don't tell the doctor, and don't tell Pei Xian, I will test it myself. Don't let your joy be in vain. Zhou's mother thought the same thing and thought she was thin-skinned, so she agreed with a smile. Because it was an important matter for her husband's heir, Zhou's mother acted very quickly. She didn't even wash the dishes and went out to buy a pregnancy test stick. Xiaoling checked and found out that she was really pregnant. She was sitting in the bathroom holding a pregnancy test stick, her hands and feet were cold. Calculating the days, it was the day before the paragliding accident and Lilei's baby. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl. They really knew how to choose the time, and they chose it in such an eventful year. Abort it? She couldn't bear to part with it. This was her and Lilei's child. What a beautiful little life. She could imagine how happy Lilei would be if he knew about it. If it is a boy, he should look like him, with a pair of sunny eyes that smile, charming and handsome. When he grows up, he can accompany his father to climb mountains, fish and hunt, and he can also learn his father's good skills. As well as the ability to manage industries, he is both civil and military. If it's a girl, it's best to look like Lilei. A girl who loves to laugh like him will be very popular, and those who pursue her will definitely line up in front of her home. She doesn't have to be virtuous, and it doesn't matter if she doesn't know how to cook. Anyway, everything has a father, and both mother and daughter will be well taken care of. Xiaoling's hand unconsciously touched her lower abdomen. It was still very flat and she couldn't feel anything the same, but she knew that the child was lying there quietly, a rare treasure that belonged to her and Lilei. A faint smile appeared on her lips. But soon, the smile faded. This child came at the wrong time. What should I do? She wanted to give birth to the child, but if Pei Xian found out, he would take her to the hospital for an abortion as soon as possible. She had sworn a poisonous oath to stay with Pei Xian. She didn't know if this oath could be broken. If not, she would really have to stay by Pei Xian's side for the rest of her life, and this child might be the one between her and Lilei. The last thought was the only proof of their love. Xiaoling has never been so worried in her entire life. She clasped her hands and murmured to herself, if there is a way, there will be a way. Outside the bathroom, Zhou's mother's voice came, Miss Ye? Are you okay? She suddenly realized that it had been a long time since she came in. She quickly said it was okay and flushed the pregnancy test stick into the sewer. She washed her face in front of the sink, forced herself to calm down, and said to the mirror, Xiaoling, if you can do it, there must be a way. She took a deep breath and walked out. Zhou's mother asked with concern, what's the result? Xiaoling shook her head and pretended to be disappointed, I'm not pregnant. Really, that's such a pity. Zhou's mother was even more disappointed than she was. Her husband was already in his 30s and he still had no children, which was very worrying. Zhou's mother suppressed the disappointment in her heart and instead smiled and comforted Xiaoling, it's okay. You and your husband have such a good relationship, you will definitely have children. Feeling good? Xiaoling retorted in her heart, if she really wanted to have a good relationship. However, in the flash of lightning, perhaps out of a mother's instinct to protect her children, she thought of something. Yeah, I really hope we can have a baby soon. She smiled at Zhou's mother and told him, don't tell Pei Xian these things today. Just pretend it never happened. Don't ruin his mood. As long as if you are in a good mood, your health will be good, and if your health is good, we will be able to. She blushed deliberately and said no more. Joe's mother understood and smiled. Miss Ye, don't worry, I understand everything. Just lie peacefully with your husband and have a son soon. Xiaoling thanked Joe's mother for her kind words and sent her away. The room was empty except for Xiaoling herself. Only then did the smile on her face fall, revealing a deep sadness. There is only one way to keep this child, which is to make Pei Ziyan mistakenly think that the child is his. But that would also mean she must spend at least one night with him. She doesn't want to. Even though they had been entangled countless times in their previous life, it was different now. She was already Li Lei's person, and she couldn't bear the touch of anyone other than Li Lei. However, the matter is urgent and she must make a choice. During dinner, Pei Ziyan went home and ate with her. She still had little appetite, fearing that he would notice the signs of pregnancy, so she specially ordered Joe's mother to cook light dishes and serve them with white porridge, and she ate little by little while enduring the discomfort. Pei Ziyan was very worried about her. It's better to see a doctor. How can I see a doctor at this time? Xiaoling said, I hate doctors, I hate injections and medicine. But you have a bad appetite. His eyebrows almost knitted together. Xiaoling said, I'm in a bad mood. It's too stuffy at home. A bad mood leads to a loss of appetite. This explanation is reasonable and makes it difficult for people to make mistakes. Besides, she did have a reason to be in a bad mood. Pei Ziyan looked more relaxed. He had known that she was in a bad mood. She had never stopped thinking about Li Lei from the first day she came home. Some time ago, she spoke with sarcasm when she opened her mouth, and she couldn't hide the ridicule and anger in her eyes when she looked at him. I haven't been feeling well for a few days, but I feel much calmer. Perhaps he took away her ring pendant, which made her realize the reality completely and give up on Li Lei. Depression and bad mood are temporary. With him by her side, she will always adjust. No, she could take the initiative to explain to him why she couldn't eat, and she thought the house was too boring. This is a good sign, a sign that she is about to get over her frustration. So, Pei Ziyan said warmly, shall I go out for a walk with you? I want to go for a drink, she said. You were not very good at drinking before. I just want to drink, she said. In her previous life, in order to sing, she had to always pay attention to protecting her voice. She had always been very restrained in drinking and only tasted wine lightly. For the same reason in this life, I drink less. However, things are different now. I don't need to record songs every day now. I want to try what it feels like to get drunk and then stop. If she is drunk, can she forget that person? Pei Ziyan stared at her deeply, and finally said, okay. Go to Feng Kun's bar. She pushed for the next step. You want to see Feng Kun? Pei Ziyan's eyes deepened a little deeper. No, she suppressed her racing heart and said calmly, his moonlight has a very good environment. You can see the whole city through the rotating glass. Besides, I haven't seen him for a long time. Pass him. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 382. Chapter 382, Get Drunk and Then Stop. It seems that she really wants to see him. Does Feng Kun know your identity? Pei Ziyan asked. Actually, Feng Kun was the first person to know that she was Xiaoling. But at this time in front of Pei Ziyan, she shook her head. How could he know? How could I tell such a thing? Pei Ziyan, I have only told you one person, even Li. She put the person she had been thinking about day and night. The man's name was swallowed back. I didn't tell you either. Pei Ziyan was now satisfied. Don't say it in the future, he warned her. You have become Ye Xingling. This is too unbelievable. Not everyone can accept it. Even if they can accept it, they may not have other thoughts about you. I don't want you to fall into the hands of some secret laboratory. Don't worry, I understand everything, she said. Xiaoyu doesn't know either. She shook her head. Pei Ziyan had long wanted to ask her, about you and Xiaoyu. When you debuted this time, you had a huge quarrel with her. You seemed to hate her. Why? Xiaoling, this is not like you. You have always loved her very much. Xiaoling was startled. She didn't expect him to mention this suddenly. Does he know that Xiaoyu likes him? For his sake, he did not hesitate to use the most vicious words in the world to insult his own sister and curse her to die. However, the jealousy between these sisters over a man has passed. Xiaoling no longer loves Pei Ziyan. Those days when she was worried about him and crazy about him, now think about it, it is embarrassing and ridiculous. She didn't want him to see the joke. It's nothing, she said lightly. I suddenly felt that this child was a little undisciplined. Pei Ziyan still wanted to ask, but Xiaoling had already said, would you like to go to Fengkan's Moonlight? They have a good aperitif there. Maybe I can eat more after drinking it. Pei Ziyan's eyes softened, and he said that Xiaoyu was a child, even though she was obviously a child herself. In order to have a drink, I came up with all kinds of crooked ideas, even making up excuses like eat more food. It doesn't matter, just listen to her once. Although Fengkan didn't have much trouble with him, he was a member of the emperor after all and had a good character. He also sincerely cared for Xiaoling. Pei Ziyan knew that they had met before in this life and had briefly collaborated at the Xingyun Song Festival. They seemed to get along quite well, so Xiaoling did not forget to choose his side even when drinking. The next night, they drove there. Fengkan has received a notice from Pei Ziyan and cleared everyone out of the place. The shop will be closed today and only the two of them will be entertained. I haven't seen Xiaoling for a long time. I heard that something happened to her while filming an announcement and she was taken back by Pei Ziyan. I wonder if she is doing well? Fengkan was very worried about her and was waiting for her in person at the bar. Chairman, Miss Ye. Unlike Chu Chen, he never called Pei Ziyan boss in a friendly manner. The polite but unfamiliar chairman also reflected his attitude towards Pei Ziyan, which was neither flattery nor flattery. Pei Ziyan took Xiaoling inside. Xiaoling turned her head and glanced at Fengkan from an angle that Pei Ziyan could not see. There was help in her eyes. For just a moment, he turned back as if nothing had happened and followed Pei Ziyan towards the booth by the window. Fengkan remained calm and handed them the drink orders with his own hands. What do you want to drink? Pei Ziyan motioned to Xiaoling. Xiaoling chose a strong cocktail. This is what I want. Pei Ziyan said, it's too spicy and not suitable for you to drink. Xiaoling said, if you have any objections, don't let me choose in the first place. She pushed the drink away and leaned on the sofa to sulk. Pei Ziyan's voice softened, then I want this. She looked better now. Fengkan asked, Chairman, what would you like to drink? Pei Ziyan doesn't drink much on weekdays, so he ordered one casually. Xiaoling glanced at the name of the wine in the dim candlelight and asked Fengkan, is it strong? Fengkan said, the wine chosen by the chairman has a soft taste and a low alcohol content. In front of Pei Ziyan, he didn't seem to know how familiar he was with Xiaoling, he just treated her as an ordinary actress who had worked with him. Xiaoling looked at Pei Ziyan unhappily, are you here to drink with me or drink with me? The way she lost her temper was very much like her previous life, which made Pei Ziyan's heart soften in an instant. He had never been able to resist her like this. So, he said to Fengkan, have a drink like Xiaoling's. Fengkan glanced at Xiaoling and saw her expression of satisfaction, so he stepped back. Not long after, two colorful cocktails were served. The brilliant colors were intertwined like ice and fire. The gorgeous glasses were dotted with ice cubes and lemons. They looked very bright. Fengkan personally placed one cup in front of Xiaoling, and then placed the other cup in front of Pei Ziyan. Xiaoling took it and gently shook the wine glass with her hand. The ice cubes made a crisp sound when they hit the glass. She looked at Pei Zion, the corners of her lips curved slightly, and she didn't know whether she was laughing or sarcastically sighing. I never thought we would sit here and drink together one day. Everything in the world is unpredictable, Pei Zion said, clinking glasses with her. She raised her fair and slender wrist, touched it lightly with him, poured the wine into her mouth and drank it all in one gulp. Unexpectedly, the spicy taste in the memory did not appear, and was replaced by an exceptionally soft taste. She was shocked and wondered. What she ordered was obviously the most powerful deep-sea red flame. Why did it taste so bland? She raised her head and heard Pei Zion say, "Don't drink such a strong wine too quickly." She suppressed the surprise in her heart and said to him, "I have done it, but you won't do it?" She put the empty wine glass upside down on the table. Pei Zion looked at her arrogant behavior and smiled indulgently. He also imitated her and drank the wine in one gulp, then tipped the empty glass upside down on the table. However, his eyebrows frowned unnoticeably. "Very strong?" she asked. Pei Zion has received the most stringent elite education since he was a child, which requires self-discipline and moderation. Except for the time when Xiaoling died in his previous life, he never drank at all and his drinking capacity was not very good. At this time, when Xiaoling asked, she did not hide it, "You know I don't usually drink these. You should drink less, it is easy to hurt your body. It seems to be very strong." Xiaoling didn't understand why they all seemed to be the same wine. Hers was as soft as sugar water, but Pei Zion thought it was strong. The cup in his hand was probably the real deep-sea red flame, while the cup in her hand was probably thrown out of the bag. Xiaoling guessed that Feng Kun had done something good. She didn't know why he did this, but it suited her perfectly. She smiled and called the waiter to refill the glass. "It's the same wine just now, 2 more glasses." 2 more glasses were served. What was delivered to Xiaoling's hands was still soft sugar water, with a faint smell of wine, but not too strong. As expected, what was delivered to Pei Zion was real liquor. After drinking the second glass, his face was already a little red. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 383. Chapter 383 Secret Conversation with Feng Kun. Xiaoling's eyes flashed, she clapped her hands and said to the waiter, 2 more drinks. Pei Zion held her down and said, "Xiaoling." She smiled, "Why, you can't bear to drink with me? If you're impatient, go back first and I'll drink by myself." She glanced at the night outside the window, showing a little loneliness. "In the past, Li. He would drink with me," the voice said. He gradually lowered his voice, seeming a little drunk, and muttered to himself, "Nowadays, I can't even find anyone drinking." Pei Zion is not someone who gets easily excited, but in front of him is a woman he deeply loves and is comparing him with his love rival. Any man would get excited at this moment, not to mention that he had already drank 2 glasses of strong wine. He called the waiter and asked for a third glass, and he drank it down with her. Xiaoling's ability to drink is not good either. Fortunately, she drank sugar water and was not drunk at all. However, in order to paralyze Pei Zion, she also looked like she was too drunk. Taking advantage of her drinking power, she ordered a 4th and a 5th glass. Although she was not an actress, she seemed to be able to persuade him to drink. There is a lot of charm between the shallow frown and the low smile. In the eyes of lovers, everyone will get drunk even if they are not drunk with wine. At first, Pei Zion wanted to be more sober. Unknowingly, I drank too much with her, 1 cup after another. Her voice, as sweet and carefree as nature, came as if from a dream. "If I get drunk, can I forget my worries and go back to the past with you?" "Go back to the past," to a time before all the damage was done. Pei Xian fell drunk on the small glass table as the deep sea flames gained momentum. Xiaoling then slowly put down her wine glass. The misty drunkenness in her eyes faded away, and she regained clarity. A pair of eyes were as bright as stars, looking coldly at the unconscious man at the table, thinking about something. Feng Kun then walked up and asked, "Xiaoling." Xiaoling looked up and saw her old friend. Her expression relaxed slightly. "Akin, long time no see." "Long time no see." Feng Kun looked at her deeply. "Xiaoling, are you okay? I heard that something happened to you before, and I was very worried. I heard that you were rescued by Pei Xian? Are you back with him?" The last time the two met was when Xiaoling had just left Tianyi. Now, things have changed dramatically. It's a long story. Xiaoling briefly told Feng Kun what happened during this period, which made Feng Kun sigh. The world is ever changing and unpredictable, and despite all the changes, she is still locked to Pei Xian. Xiaoling said, "Thank you. Fortunately, you helped me get him drunk." "You are smart," Feng Kun smiled. "It is not easy to fool Pei Xian." Hearing what he said, Xiaoling also smiled and said, "How did you know to give me sugar water and give him strong liquor?" Feng Kun said, "Although I am an employee of the emperor, I have no personal relationship with Pei Xian. He never comes to my bar to drink. Therefore, you must have asked him to come tonight. You have never liked drinking, so I asked him to come over and looked at me with pleading eyes when I walked in." "Xiaoling, I guess you are in trouble." Xiaoling nodded. Feng Kun continued, "You insist on him drinking strong liquor with you, maybe you want to get him drunk. If that's the case, you should have something to do, and you don't want to get drunk yourself. So, I asked you." The wine was replaced with a soft drink containing a trace amount of alcohol, which also contained anti-alcohol medicine. Hangover medicine? Just when Xiaoling was about to say something, she suddenly felt a little uncomfortable in her lower abdomen. She instinctively covered it with her hands and her expression became nervous. "Akin, will hangover medicine or something like that affect the fetus?" "You mean, fetus?" Feng Kun's expression condensed. "Are you pregnant?" Xiaoling nodded. "That's why I came to you today. I am pregnant with Li Lei's child. But now that I am staying with Pei Xian, you know that Pei Xian will never allow me to give birth to the child." She raised her head, looking at Feng Kun. "Will hangover medicine have any effect on children?" I don't understand anything." Her helpless and nervous look made Feng Kun feel distressed. A few days ago, he wanted to visit her in the hospital, but was stopped by Pei Xian and Chu Chen. He guessed that the situation should be serious, but he didn't expect it to be more serious than he imagined. "The dose of hangover medicine I put in is very small, so it should be fine," he comforted her briefly, and then asked, "Does Pei Xian know about your pregnancy?" "I don't know," Xiaoling said, biting her lip. I have to get him drunk and make him think I spent the night with him. In this way, he will regard the child as his own." She felt he is very despicable. He is obviously Li Lei's child, but he still wants to find ways to make Pei Xian recognize him. However, she had no better way. No matter whether it was despicable or shameless, although a woman is weak, she is strong as a mother. No matter what, the life of the child comes first. Feng Kun gasped, "If Pei Xian knows the truth, he will kill you." "This idea is too bold. It would be okay if it is not exposed, but if it is exposed, no man can bear such humiliation. Even if I die, I must keep this child," Xiaoling said firmly. "Why don't you just run away? Go back to Li Lei," Feng Kun said. "I can help you." "No one can help me," Xiaoling said sadly. "Akin, I can only stay with Pei Xian. As for the reason, don't ask. If you want to help me get through the hospital. I need fake medical records." Fake medical records. It was the wrong time to get pregnant. It was a rare moment for her to be careful when it came to Li Lei's child. The child is already over a month old. Even if I sleep with Pei Zion today, it will take another month to tell him the news about my pregnancy. At that time, the child was more than 2 months old. When I went to the hospital for a checkup, the lie would be revealed as soon as he calculated the date. Superior. Feng Kun looked solemn. You know, Pei Zion has a habitual hospital, and he is very familiar with the director of Sinning Hospital. Sinning Hospital is the largest general hospital in S City, with very advanced medical facilities, many of which are from donations from generations of the Pei family. Therefore, everyone in the hospital did their best for Pei Zion. This time Xiaoling's accident happened. She also had surgery and recuperation at Sinning Hospital. Xiaoling knows this matter better than Feng Kun. The Pei family not only has a hospital they often go to, but also a family doctor, which is a thorny problem. However, no matter how difficult it was, she had to solve it. For the safety of her children, some things had to be done. Akin, please check for me quickly. Where is the best obstetrics and gynecology department in the city? It can't happen to be Sinning Hospital, right? Is there any other hospital with an obstetrics and gynecology department that surpasses Sinning Hospital? Even if it's the best obstetrics and gynecology department in the city. It's okay if Sinning is the same. I will strongly ask Pei Zion to change places. If the hospital is good, maybe he will follow me. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 384. Chapter 384 A Hasty Night. Having been with Pei Zion for more than 10 years, she knows very well that if she insists on one thing in particular, as long as it does not touch his bottom line, she will most likely succeed. Does the question of which hospital he should give birth to touch his bottom line? Xiaoling didn't know, but she had to try it anyway. Feng Kun asked Xiaoling to wait while he called his friend on the spot. His friend's wife gave birth to a baby last year. She was familiar with several first-class obstetrics and gynecology departments in the city, and told him that the best one was Huaxin Maternal and Infant Hospital. Feng Kun thanked his friend and hung up the phone. I will help you contact the experts at Huaxin Maternal and Infant Hospital and bribe the best attending doctor there. After the matter is settled, I will find a way to tell you the doctor's name, Feng Kun said to Xiaoling. Xiaoling was grateful. Fortunately, I have you, otherwise I really don't know what to do. She has been anxious since she learned that she was pregnant. Before the child was born, she would have to fight a life or death war. That feeling of hanging my heart is so painful. Now, after listening to Feng Kun's words, it's like taking a reassurance. Feng Kun comforted her a few more words. The plan has been decided, and the two of them discussed moving Pei Zion back home. Are you going to throw him into bed like this, and then wake up the next morning and tell him that you had a good night together last night? Feng Kun looked at Pei Zion, who was drunk and unconscious, and suddenly asked her. Xiaoling was startled. Yes, what? Feng Kun shook his head and smiled bitterly. You. Wait for me. Speaking, he left in a hurry. Not long after, a man wearing a security uniform was brought back. He was taciturn and wore a large hat held low. At first, Xiaoling only regarded the man as an ordinary security guard. However, when the man reached out to help Pei Zion, a small part of his wrist was exposed, and his skin was extremely white and tender. Xiaoling looked at her again in surprise and found that she was actually a woman, wearing light smoky makeup. Although she was dressed seriously, there was a faint smell of travel dust in the corners of her eyes and eyebrows. We are in a hurry, so we can only find someone like this, Feng Kun explained to her. Reo works in the nightclub opposite. He is very relaxed and willing to spend the night with him. Don't worry, Reo knows the rules very well. As long as you get the money, you will do things well and never say anything afterwards. Doing business. Xiaoling realized that she wanted Rao Rao to have with Pei Ziyan for real and make the scene more realistic. She couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed. No wonder Feng Kun shook his head and smiled bitterly. We are all adults now. Everyone knows the difference between sleeping under a quilt and having a good night. If you do it, it will leave more or less traces on the bed. It is not simple. You can deceive people in just one sleep. Especially to deceive a wealthy person like Pei Ziyan. It seems that Xiaoling was negligent, or she deliberately did not want to think about these details. She muttered and thanked Feng Kun. Rao Rao pursed her lips and smiled, "Miss, don't worry, I will definitely get things done, and I will leave S City tomorrow and never show up again. Money can make all the difference." In order to help Xiaoling to handle this matter, Feng Kun spent a large amount of money, which was far higher than the salary level of a nightclub girl, because he had an additional requirement. After this incident, the girl must leave S City forever. Only in this way will Xiaoling's secret be safe. Xiaoling glanced at Feng Kun gratefully. Feng Kun greeted Rao Rao, led the drunken Pei Ziyan out of the bar, and came to Pei Ziyan's Rolls-Royce with Xiaoling. The driver opened the door for them and asked Xiaoling, "Ms. Yeah, what's wrong, sir?" "I'm drunk, so it won't be a problem," Xiaoling said. Feng Kun and the security guard helped see us off. The driver was an old man who was following Pei Ziyan. He recognized Feng Kun, and he deliberately avoided the driver's sight. He really looked like an ordinary security guard. So, after hearing what Xiaoling said, the driver had no doubts and let everyone get in the car and drove all the way back to the mansion. When they arrived at the mansion, several people used the same method to fool Zhou's mother into the bedroom. Several people worked together to put Pei Ziyan on the bed. After that, Xiaoling left Rao Rao in the bedroom, and she and Feng Kun went to the terrace of the bedroom. It was quiet on the spacious terrace, with the moonlight shining like water. Afraid of being discovered, they did not turn on the lights and stood in the shadows under the hazy moonlight, chatting in low voices. "You have changed," Feng Kun said. "What has changed?" Xiaoling was thinking about what happened in the bedroom, a little absent-mindedly. Feng Kun glanced at her. "I have become stronger than before, able to endure hardships, and decisive. In the past, when she encountered difficulties, she would only lose her temper, make a fuss, and expect others to help her solve it. But now, she has learned to think on her own, make up her own mind to deal with problems, and once she decides, act quickly and never be sloppy." Feng Kun doesn't know whether this change is good or bad. Xiaoling smiled bitterly, "Because I had someone to rely on before, but later I realized that sometimes I had to rely on myself." Her hand unconsciously touched her lower abdomen, which was still very flat, but she knew that a precious little life was being gestated. "I have to be strong for it. It can only rely on me. Its father chose it in the sky and didn't even know it existed. Now, only she can protect it well. Because she has a child, it grows up instantly." Feng Kun sighed. She was originally a child herself. She didn't understand the complex rules of the adult world, didn't know the sufferings of the world, and didn't need to scheming and worrying with anyone. However, for the sake of her children, she must deal with the most ruthless and shrewd man in the world. If there is a slight mistake, she will be doomed. Feng Kun thought over her plan again and again. "Stand still and wait for news from me," he said. "You must wait until I have secured the hospital before telling him about your pregnancy. I will find a way to contact Li Lei for you and ask him to rescue you as soon as possible." "No need to contact him," Xiaoling said. "Why?" Feng Kun was puzzled. "I have asked Sister Maina to contact me," she said. "If Li Lei finds a way, he will come to save me. If there is no way, then there is no need to tell him about my pregnancy. If he can't save you, do you plan to stay with Pei Ziyan for the rest of your life? Otherwise, what else can we do?" Xiaoling raised her head and looked at the misty moonlight in the night sky. Her tone of voice was as misty as the moonlight. "If you can't go back, It's better to stop thinking about him, and don't even have to worry about the child. He knows. In this way, he can live the rest of his life in peace and have a wife. Forget about me. She couldn't speak any more and lowered her head again. Feng Kun's heart ached, but she also understood that the situation she mentioned might be the best solution. If you really can't go back, there is no need to make any more twists and turns, otherwise, the life story of this child raised in Pei Xian's name may be exposed. And neither she nor the child had the ability to protect themselves when facing Pei Xian. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 385. Chapter 385 A Belated Proposal. Feng Kun gave her a friendly hug. If you have any questions, come to me anytime. I will always be on your side. She nodded vigorously, her nose feeling a little sore. Fortunately, Feng Kun was there, otherwise, she really didn't know how to get through the current difficulties. The door connecting the terrace to the bedroom was opened, and Rao Rao came out. The matter is done. She was fully dressed, exactly the same as when she arrived, with a full set of dark security uniforms, and a wide brim of a hat covering her face. Then let's go, you have to take care of yourself. Xiaoling nodded and sent the two of them downstairs to leave. Going back to the bedroom, she looked at Pei Xian on the bed. The man who is as handsome as A is still sleeping. Xiaoling, however, felt waves of nausea. She covered her mouth and nose, rushed into the bathroom and retched for a long time before she recovered. She lay weakly on the edge of the toilet and gasped. I heard that some people have a smooth pregnancy without any symptoms of pregnancy, but her baby is very troublesome. It is only more than a month old, but it already makes her unable to eat, sleep, and feels nauseous from time to time. Baby, she gently stroked her belly with her hand and said in a low voice, you have to be good and don't get discovered. Dad is not around, so we have to protect ourselves. You have to be as powerful as Dad, no matter what. You can live well in any dangerous place, you know. Perhaps after receiving her message, the physical discomfort gradually subsided. Xiaoling rested there for a while before she mustered up the courage to return to the bedroom. She changed into her dressing gown and sat by the window all night. The morning light came through. Pei Xian woke up from his sleep with a severe headache. Some vague memories of last night echoed in his mind. Yes, he went drinking with Xiaoling, and then they both got drunk. What happened next? He stood up, startled, and scanned the bedroom for a week, and soon found Xiaoling on the small sofa by the window. At this time, she was wearing a pure white silky snow-like dressing gown, her long hair was messy, and the blue-gray morning light lightly outlined her somewhat sad profile, like a goddess in a floating dream. Untrue. It seems like it will break if touched lightly. Xiaoling, he called hoarsely. She seemed to have heard it, but she seemed not to have heard it. She was still looking out the window, saying nothing. Pei Xian stood up and took a dressing gown from the side of the bed and put it on himself. The black silk satin set off his tall figure and strong chest, making him as handsome as a god. He walked up to her and pulled her face, but he was startled. The sadness and panic on that face was so deep, and the look of weakness and brokenness made him feel heartbroken. What's wrong with you? He asked. You ask me what's wrong? Xiaoling used all her acting skills in her life and looked at him, her eyes full of sorrow and accusation. Pei Xian, I didn't know you were such a beast after drinking. She seemed extremely angry, even his body was shaking slightly. Pei Xian saw her like this and recalled the clues when he woke up, and immediately understood what happened. He actually wanted her after he was drunk. He was a little annoyed, as this was not in line with his plan. His original plan was to approach her slowly, let her get used to him, and get her body naturally without hurting her as much as possible. However, a drunken incident disrupted everything. But it doesn't matter, you can plan in advance. He looked at her with unfathomable eyes. I will be responsible for you. Responsible? How to be responsible? She sneered, still looking ashamed and angry. Pei Zion, something like this happened, the damage has been done, and you still want to claim responsibility. Don't you think it's ridiculous? Marry me, he said abruptly. Xiaoling was stunned. What? Marry me this time. He looked at her sparkling eyes and said resolutely and unquestionably, Xiaoling, I will give you a grand wedding and invite people from all over the world to watch it, pile up a chocolate cake tower by your favorite beach, spread 10 miles of red roses, and have 999 pairs of flower girls, groomsmen, and bridesmaids. This was the wedding she had always wanted in her previous life. Pei Zion laughed at her for being extravagant, but she said, I'm just extravagant, superficial, and have no style. How about it? Let other women be envious, jealous, and hateful. I want to tell the whole world how much you love me. She had been planning for a long time, pestering him with the details of the wedding, but she never thought that he had no intention of giving her a wedding at all. I didn't understand it until now. He fell to pieces and woke up from his dream. However, after waking up from the dream, he said, Xiaoling, shall I give you a wedding? Xiaoling really felt desolate now. All her acting skills and pretense had been thrown out of the window. Pei Zion, what did you say before? You said that with my identity I would not be accepted by the Pei family. Tell me to give up. Call me, I will be your underground lover for the rest of my life. Pei Zion, do you know how long I have been sad? How did you throw my heart on the ground and roast it on the fire? Now, I finally give up. But you told me that you want to marry me and give me a dream wedding. Her body was trembling, and there were tears gathering in her eyes. How ridiculous. Wasn't it just to fight for such a status in the first place? If he had been willing to marry her, they would have been so happy and happy. How could there be Wang Jingguan, and how could there have been all the earth-shattering changes that happened later? If they had gotten married long ago. Tears slid down my cheeks. Pei Zion felt distressed and wanted to hold her in his arms, but she pushed him away. It's too late, Pei Zion, it's too late, she cried, shaking her head and staggering back. I don't love you anymore, I have fallen in love with someone else. This wedding is too late, you know it's too late. I have spent my whole life waiting for you to propose to me, but that was in my previous life, and I no longer expect it in this life. Why do you want to tell me such news now? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 386. Chapter 386. Luo Hong. She wiped her tears with her hands and said in embarrassment, Pei Zion, you might as well not tell me. Don't let me know that the desperate situation in my previous life is actually not a desperate situation. You can marry me. It turns out, I can get this wedding, so what are the perseverances and hardships I endured before? As he spoke, tears fell again. She covered her face with her hands to prevent him from seeing the miserable look on her face as she cried profusely. Pei Zion hugged her tightly and said, I'm sorry. He didn't know what to say other than apologizing. The Pei family is a high-ranking family that has been prominent for many generations. It has been passed down for many generations and has many unwritten rules. For example, the wife of the head of the family must be from a well-matched wealthy family, and his heirs must have noble blood. If he doesn't follow these archaic rules, he won't even be able to keep his position as head of the family. The relationships within the Pei family are complicated. That year, his father suddenly died of illness. At the age of 16, he was appointed to take charge of the emperor and take over the banner of the Pei family. Overtly and secretly, there are so many pairs of eyes staring at him, and so many people who rely on their old age and are unconvinced by him, waiting for him to make mistakes. Over the years, his empire is not as stable and easy to manage as outsiders seem. On the contrary, there are many hidden dangers, and he spends his time, after many years of management, it is still walking on thin ice. As long as you are not careful, you will be pulled down from the imperial throne by the group of bloodthirsty sharks lurking in the dark. He couldn't let those people succeed. Behind him stood many subordinates and staff who followed him. They staked their property and even their lives on his ship. For those people, and for the honor and responsibility that belonged to the emperor, he could not retreat even an inch. If you take one step back, your entire army will be wiped out. For the sake of Xiaoling, we cannot retreat. Only when he controls the immense power, can she enjoy everything under his protection, endless money, favor, and praise, without being harmed in any way. He liked the way she smiled, so clean and beautiful, as if she was living in a crystal dream forever, a treasure he was willing to spend his whole life guarding. For her sake, and for those who followed him, he had to work hard. Also, allies are needed. His mother's family has long been in decline, and all he can hope for is to marry a good wife with a good family background and talents to help him. After careful screening, he reached an agreement with the Wang family. Wang Jingguan is a sensible woman. She understands that this is just a transaction where each gets what he needs. Even when he put forward the condition that you are not allowed to embarrass Yaling, she nodded her head dignifiedly and agreed. Everything is going smooth. So much so that he thought it would continue smoothly like this. He thought that his beloved Xiaoling would understand. After all, his good intentions were also for her. They really love each other and shouldn't care about those false names. So what if the vacant title of wife of the royal family is given to Wang Jingguan? His love was always only for her. He even had his premarital property notarized and made a will early. Except for the part that had to go to the Pei clan, everything else was attributed to Xiaoling. Unfortunately, he was wrong. She doesn't want his property, just the false name, the title of Mrs. Pei. At that time, she also cried and told him that she hoped their love could be openly exposed to the sun and receive blessings from the whole world. She wanted to be his legitimate wife, even if she couldn't get a dime of property, she didn't care. A woman's persistence in love is like a moth rushing to the flame. She quarreled with him endlessly, negotiated with Wang Jingguan, and tried to run away from home after impulsively killing Wang Jingguan, challenging Pei Xian's bottom line of tolerance again and again. Pei Xian was finally angered. Out of punishment and for her safety, he locked her up, whipped her, tempered her, and taught her. He wants her to be obsessed with and worship him again. It is a pity that during the days of imprisonment, she lived in such misery and panic all day long, and finally died in an extremely tragic way. Pei Xian regretted it very much. If all the bad things that happened later were just for a status, then why not satisfy her? If you had satisfied her from the beginning, right, there wouldn't have been the things that happened later. After Xiaoling's death, he fulfilled her wishes one by one that she had not been able to fulfill during her lifetime. Go ride a roller coaster among the crowds, go to the cinema to watch a movie like an ordinary couple, go to a bustling night market to eat food stalls, go to the African savannah to dance with the indigenous people. However, her greatest wish could not be realized. Marry. Although it was impossible to achieve, Pei Xian still worked hard towards that goal step by step. He worked harder than ever before and devoted himself to it with 120,000 enthusiasm. He was cold-blooded and iron-blooded, and used thunderous means to conquer the Pei family. Up and down, he has been in charge of the family business since he was 16 years old. Now 20 years have passed, and he has finally taken control of the family, and he can enforce orders and prohibitions without saying anything. Even if there is no marriage, there is no need to look at anyone's face. He can finally marry her. Originally, he was very sad. Everything was ready, but the bride had passed away. But now, he is very happy. He is happy that he worked so hard during the 2 years when he lost her. Perhaps because of this, God favored her and sent her back to him. Marry me, he gently stroked her long hair and repeated softly, Xiaoling, you will become the mistress of the Pei family. No one dares to say no. She shook her head and struggled to break away from his arms. It's too late, Pei Zion. Her tone was empty, and there was an indescribable sadness in her eyes. What is missed is always missed. If she had not met Li Lei in this life, maybe things would turn around. But things are different now. She has found her own unique sunshine, and she will not waver even if the world separates her. She turned around and left. Pei Zion looked at her back and his expression darkened. It turns out that Xiaoling has become ruthless, and she can be so ruthless. How much he missed those days in the past, those days when she would still beg him bitterly even though she was heartbroken. At least she was trying to save her back then, but what about now? There is nothing more sad than heartbreak, and she is not even willing to try to save it. For a moment, Pei Zion felt endless fatigue coming over him, as if he had aged 10 years. He absent-mindedly took off his dressing gown and threw it on the bed, intending to change into a coat and go to the company. However, when his eyes fell on the messy bedding, he suddenly stopped. There is a small patch of bright red. Like petals, the blood of virgins. Pei Zion's heart beat wildly, and he suddenly remembered that his Xiaoling had been reincarnated in another life. She was only 18 years old, and she was still a clean girl, even Li Lei had never touched her. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 387. Chapter 387 Return to the Emperor. Such a knowledge rekindled hope in Pei Zion's originally depressed mood. Her body still belongs to him alone. It is said that women are always loyal to their first partner. Maybe given time, she will finally be able to accept him as she did in her previous life. The corners of his lips curved slightly. This was really good news. What he didn't know was that this was not virgin blood at all, but Feng Kun's plan. Acting must be realistic. Just let Rao Rao cut his finger and make Pei Zion think that this night is your first time. Feng Kun calmly said to Xiaoling, in this way, he will think that he is the only man who has touched you, and the child in your belly will be safer. So, Xiaoling adopted his idea. Although she didn't want to deceive Pei Zion, these were insignificant compared to the child's life. After that day, the relationship between the two became a little subtle. Pei Zion still took good care of her, but he seemed to have something extra. He often looked at her with a gentle look like looking at his wife. The entire Pei family is waiting for me to marry. In his spare time, he accompanied her and patiently peeled fruit for her. After you died, I once told them that I would never marry. Now if I am willing to get married and have children, even if the target is just a commoner, they will be happy. He didn't tell her how many games there were and how much pressure he was under. She just needs to know that the Pei family welcomes her, even if the welcome is an illusion he painstakingly created. Xiaoling could hear the implication behind his words. It's good to live alone, she said, her eyes drooping to hide her emotions. Marriage is just asking for trouble. She glanced at the fruit in his hand and changed the subject. I don't want to do that today. Eat peaches. He put down the peeled peach and replaced it with an apple. This orange. She took an orange from the fruit basket and a knife to peel it herself. Recently, she likes eating sour food very much. People say that sour children and hot girls may have a boy in their belly. Thinking of this, her expression became much gentler, with a hint of tranquility on her face. Pei Zion looked at her, somewhat lost in thought. She is actually not as stunning in this life as in her previous life, but for some reason, she has a more mysterious and charming brilliance, just like a piece of shining jade in the long river of time, not gorgeous, but durable. He took the knife from her hand and said, "Carefully cut your hand." Then he helped her peel the orange. Xiaoling didn't insist and let him go, sitting next to him in silence in a daze. "You didn't like doing things with your hands before." Pei Zian lowered his head, the golden orange peel trailing down in his palm, showing his perfect knife skills. "Why do you want to peel the oranges yourself now?" "It's boring," she said. "You feel bored at home." He cut the oranges into slices and handed them to her. "Shall I go out with you to play?" Xiaoling lowered her head and thought for a while. "You're busy at work, forget it," she said. "Besides, there's nothing fun outside. I'm almost rested and want to sing." He was startled for a moment, then smiled, "Return to the Emperor." She nodded slightly. Even though she was reluctant to do so, she must return to the Emperor now. She must have free space to contact the outside world so that she can get in touch with Feng Kun. If there is anything in the future, it will be easier for her to communicate with her. She had to do this for the sake of her children. Seeing that she was really willing to return to the Emperor, Pei Zian felt unexpectedly happy. After thinking about it carefully, I felt that maybe something had changed that night when she was drunk. Her body already belonged to him, and her heart would slowly return. "I'll ask Chu Chen to bring the contract." He stood up and called Chu Chen directly. Not long after, Chu Chen appeared in the living room with the contract. Several thick pages of black and white writing. Xiaoling didn't read the content at all. It didn't matter whether she read it or not. It was all Pei Zian's will. She took the pen and signed her name directly under the contract. It was a very strange feeling. When the three words "Yexing Ling" fell on the white paper, it seemed that something was broken from the bottom of my heart. The slight sound was painful. She recalled signing her name on Tianyi's debut contract 2 years ago. At that time, she was high-spirited and full of hope for the future, telling herself that she would never be able to return to the Emperor no matter what. But, what about now? After going round and round, I still can't escape this cage. She stretched out her plain white and slender hand, closed the contract, and handed it back to Pei Zian. Pei Zian looked at her with satisfaction, his eyes full of tenderness. "Open the champagne tonight to celebrate." "There is nothing to celebrate," she said. "I just want to find something to do and relax. I don't want to be a queen anymore, and I don't want to gain popularity and fame." "Don't make the schedule too full." After a pause, she added, "Maybe I can't make any money for you." "How much?" "I don't care." Pei Zian was still very gentle. "Just use Chu Chen as your agent. He will make arrangements according to your requirements." Chu Chen heard from the side and nodded slightly to her. He was not too surprised by this arrangement. Pei Zian usually assigned the most valued artist to him. It used to be Xiaoling, then Xiaoyu, and now there is Yexing Ling. She was not happy. "I don't like Chu Chen." Even in front of others, she was not polite. The expressions of Pei Zian and Chu Chen did not change. She had had many conflicts with Chu Chen when she was still a trainee of Tianyi. Her displeasure was obviously expected by them. "He is the best agent," Pei Zian said. "Be good." Although he was trying to coax her, it was clear that there was no room for doubt. Xiaoling sighed in her heart. It seemed that she would still have to look at this snobbish agent in the future. She misses Sister Maina so much. Even Lin Yunan is much better than Chu Chen no matter what. Unfortunately, Chu Chen is Pei Zian's confidant, and Pei Zian will never allow her to escape his attention. Since she knew she couldn't resist, Xiaoling had no choice but to accept it, said nothing more, and turned around to go upstairs. "Leave Chu Chen and Pei Zian downstairs. She is a little willful." "How hard it is for you," Pei Zian said to Chu Chen. Chu Chen said respectfully, "Boss, you are too polite. It is my responsibility to take good care of Miss Ye." He did not know that Yexing Ling was Xiaoling, but it was enough to know that she was the boss's favorite woman. "So what if it's hard work?" How could it be so easy for him to climb to where he is today and become the boss's confidant? Pei Ziyan patted him on the shoulder. Chu Chen is an ambitious man who wants power, money, and stands on a high place for thousands of people to admire him. Pei Ziyan satisfied him with all these, giving him a high enough position and enough power. He only had one requirement, to take good care of the woman who belonged to Pei Ziyan. Chu Chen is very smart and has always done well. Pei Ziyan felt relieved when he handed Xiaoling over to him. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weiniang. Chapter 388. Chapter 388 Black and White Photo. After a few days, the wind became warm and sunny. Xiaoling counted the days and thought that Feng Kun should have almost done everything. Coupled with the increasingly serious joyful reaction, she could hardly hide it, so she asked Chu Chen to take her to the emperor. There was a car parked at the door. It was Pei Ziyan's Rolls-Royce. Pei Ziyan is a very old-fashioned and conservative person. He doesn't even like to change his cars. He has 3 Rolls-Royces of the same model so that he can easily switch between them when doing maintenance or encountering a breakdown. At this time, waiting for Xiaoling at the door was one of them. Chu Chen invited her to get in the car. Xiaoling stood by the door without moving. We are going to the emperor, right? Take this one, this is too high profile. Who in the emperor doesn't recognize the big boss's car? Chu Chen said, this is what the boss means. I want to change my car. She didn't care who it was. Chu Chen said, I can't make the decision on this matter. The boss is holding a very important board meeting today. It's inconvenient to interrupt. If you really don't want to take this car, you might as well wait for the boss to come back in the evening and tell him personally. Xiaoling was silent. The baby in her belly was growing day by day. She had to race against time to keep it safe. Even a day and a half was precious. She didn't want to wait any longer and reluctantly got into the extremely luxurious Rolls-Royce. The car slowly drove into the headquarters campus, and all the sentries saluted them along the way. They wandered along the tree-lined driveway for a long time, and finally stopped in front of a building. Xiaoling recognized this building and was very familiar with it. It was the location of the recording studio. There were many music studios of different styles equipped with first-class music equipment for the emperor's producers and singers. When she got off the bus, many people coming and going stared at her. Luckily, she had expected this to happen and had put on sunglasses beforehand, covering most of her face and blocking many curious eyes. But he was very irritated in his heart. Pei Ziyan insisted on letting her ride in this car. Wasn't it just to declare his ownership of her in front of everyone? I'm afraid that within a day, scandals about her and him will spread throughout the company. However, none of this matters. She followed Chu Chen in the elevator to the 16th floor, Feng Kun's exclusive area. The door is closed. I'm sorry, you two, the young and beautiful receptionist in front of the reception desk on the floor said to them politely. Mr. Feng is still busy. However, he has ordered that if Miss Ye comes, let him know immediately. Wait a minute, you two, I'll go in and make an announcement. Before she came, she asked Chu Chen to make an appointment with Feng Kun. Now, it was already 5 minutes late before the meeting time, but he was still busy. He must have had a very important inspiration. Xiaoling knew Feng Kun well. Although he was not as hard-working as Wei Shaiyin in making music, he was also very dedicated. No need, she said to the receptionist, don't disturb him. Wait until he has finished his work and then tell him the news of my arrival. The receptionist should exit. Chu Chen pressed the elevator button for her and the door opened. He let her in and then came in after him. Ms. Yeah, he put his hand on the control panel and asked in a consultative tone, which floor do you want to go to now? If you are waiting for someone, there is a small coffee bar on the 2nd floor. There are not many people at this time and the sofa is comfortable. Xiaoling knew that small coffee bar. It had a nice environment. The floor-to-ceiling windows opened onto the terrace and garden, with sunshine and the fragrance of flowers. She had liked it there before, and besides, there was really no other place to go. Although the Imperial Park was large, it was just a workplace and there were not many leisure and entertainment facilities. Each building only had small coffee bars and cafes like this. Restaurant now. She nodded. Just go there. Chu Chen pressed the button for the second floor, and soon he arrived. He still let her out first in a gentlemanly manner, and then he followed. This man, when he puts on the disguise of a gentleman, really doesn't look like a lackey at all. Xiaoling walked in front and found the coffee bar easily while escaping her memory. It's still the same as before, with carefully pieced gravel floors, old bar counters, tables and chairs, the unique bitter aroma of hand-ground coffee beans flowing in the air, the sun shining in slantingly, and a beautiful tabby cat sitting lazily. Lying lazily in the corner by the window and soaking up the sun. Mr. Chu, long time no see. The barista stepped forward and greeted Chu Chen with a smile. In the emperor, if Pei Xian is the emperor, then Chu Chen is also a prime minister with real power. Everyone wants to curry favor with him, but no one can afford to offend him. What would you like to drink today? The barista asked him enthusiastically. Chu Chen asked Xiaoling, what would you like to drink? I heard that you don't like coffee. How about lemonade? The lemonade here uses specially prepared lemons. It has a unique taste that you can't see on the market. Xiaoling was not very happy. Yes, she does not drink much coffee, and she also likes to drink lemonade. But she really didn't like the feeling of being seen through by someone, especially by this annoying person. That was too bad. She took off her sunglasses, glanced at Chu Chen coldly, and said, you don't have to worry about what I drink. Chu Chen, when will it be your turn to take care of me? She turned to the barista, give me a cup. Helling iced coffee, put less milk and more sugar. The barista looked surprised. He probably had never seen someone talking to Chu Chen like this before. Yet. He was a little embarrassed, and turned to look at Chu Chen. Mr. Chu. Very good, he can call her by her last name, so he must know who she is. But even so, he still followed Chu Chen's lead. Who is the star, and who is the agent who should take the lead? Her mood became even worse, and she said, I won't drink any more. Turn around and walk away. Behind him, Chu Chen scolded the barista in a low voice, hurry up. Put less milk and more sugar in Helling coffee, remember. The barista replied, yes, yes. Chu Chen caught up with him in a few steps, Miss Ye, don't be angry, the barista here is ignorant. Xiaoling turned to look at him. He swallowed the rest of his words and consciously stopped disturbing her purity. Power is really a good thing, and being around a powerful person is like reaching the sky, isn't it? Just over a year ago, the guy in front of her was still arrogant in front of her, forcing her to despair, but who would have expected that things would change? Now their status has been reversed, and he has to be careful and watch her face. All of this is because of that man, Pei Xian. Because he fell in love with the phantom of a butterfly. Xiaoling walked casually along the coffee bar for a few steps, and before she knew it, she came to a wall covered with photos. She remembered this wall. It was the Emperor's celebrity wall. The stars hanging on it were all the Emperor's very popular stars in recent years, including her in her previous life, Queen Xiaoling. Among the many color photos, this one is the only one in black and white. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 389. Chapter 389. She is beautiful. The presence of this black and white photo is so strong. Among the many dazzling photos on the entire wall, it is always the first thing people see. The Queen Xiaoling in the photo has a pair of bright, flying, clean eyes, like the clear sky and like a flame. It was so warm and beautiful that even in this life, she didn't know that such bright and moving eyes had ever existed in this world. She is beautiful. Chu Chen stood with her in front of the photo wall, also looking at the black and white photo. Xiaoling looked at herself in the previous life in trance and said nothing. Chu Chen's tone was full of nostalgia and emotion. You know? She is simply God's darling. Not only does she sing well, she is beautiful, but more importantly, she has such a pair of eyes. Only those who have seen her with a pair of pure and flawless eyes, you will believe that there are really people in this world who can be so beautiful, as if they live in a dream forever, and have never been harmed. No, she is not God's favorite, Xiaoling whispered. Such a pair of eyes, so clean, how could they be born? How can a person live for more than 20 years without suffering a little harm? Only in Pei Xian's cage, that cage as bright as crystal, can canaries, or in other words, dolls, butterflies, that do not understand the sufferings of the world can be raised. But now, the cage is broken. The butterfly wants to be free. She gently touched the black and white photo with her hand. The eyes in the photo were so bright that it made people palpitate. It's a pity that everything is a thing of the past. In the future, there will never be eyes like this again. Little by little, she covered it. There will never be another Queen Xiaoling in this world. Chu Chen didn't say anything. The Yasinling in front of her looked like the Queen Xiaoling. She did have a lot of similarities. But if she didn't look like her, she was very different. She wasn't as carefree as the Queen Xiaoling. But she seems to be full of worries anytime and anywhere. She is vigilant and guarded, more like a wounded cub. Even though she is still very weak, even if she does not know how to resist power, she is always unwilling to give in. Comparatively, the former Queen Xiaoling is happier. The two of them had their own thoughts and stood in front of the photo wall for a while. Suddenly, a brisk voice was heard, Xiaoling, Xiaoling. Following the voice, a small white figure with short hair flying flew towards Xiaoling. Xiaoling, is it really you? Luoluo's face was full of surprise. Why are you here? What happened during this time? I heard that something happened to you, and I was worried to death. Are you okay? She was bombarded with questions. Xiaoling then remembered that she had not met Luoluo since the paragliding accident. The last time she went back to the apartment to move, she simply left her a note. So, she explained, I'm fine. I was injured while making an announcement before. I was rescued by Pei Xian and have been recuperating at his place. Recuperate at Boss Pei's place? Luoluo opened his eyes wide. Oh my god, are the rumors true? Today they said that a mysterious woman was accompanied by Mr. Chu and got out of the boss's Rolls Royce. Could it be that the mysterious woman? Oh my god, have you been living at his place during this time? She said as she looked at Chu Chen beside her, her eyes almost popping out. The volume was too loud, and many people in the coffee bar were looking at her in surprise. Xiaoling hurriedly covered her mouth and dragged her to the corner. Keep your voice down, Xiaoling was going crazy, don't go anywhere. Promote that I got out of that car. She knew that Pei Xian had no good intentions in giving her the car, and as expected, the gossip spread. Oh my god, that mysterious woman is really Luoluo looked around and quickly lowered his voice, Xiaoling, what's going on? I'm going to faint. I can't get through to you during this time. I went to Lin Yunnan to find you. He said that you had terminated your contract with Dong Yu. If I hadn't seen on the news that you were injured and hospitalized, and you left a note when we moved that day, I would have thought that you had disappeared. I have signed a contract with the Emperor now, Xiaoling said briefly. Luoluo was shocked again. What? You actually signed in with us? When did it happen? Just a few days ago Xiaoling sighed helplessly, knowing that if she didn't satisfy the girl's curiosity, she could chase her and break the casserole to find out. This paragliding accident was rescued by Pei Ziyan. He is recovering from his injuries. During this period, he always took good care of me, and I was finally moved by him and became the emperor at his invitation. This reason is sound. So Luo believed it and nodded. Yes, he has made a special trip to invite you before and even came to our apartment. As he said that, he raised a big smile and said, "That's good, Xiaoling, now you are the emperor's servant like me, and we can be together from now on." Wait a minute, what's going on together? Xiaoling only felt that her head was full of black lines. This child was so simple, straightforward, and unobtrusive. However, looking at her bright smile, Xiaoling's mood, which had been depressed for a long time, suddenly improved. By the way, what a coincidence. I didn't expect you to come for coffee anyway. She was waiting for someone here, so Xiaoling was not in a hurry and simply chatted with Luo over her cup of coffee. Luo jumped twice on the spot, with short and fluffy hair and full of energy, waiting to enter the studio. I made an appointment to record a new song in studio number 7, but Sister Ying Chen has an urgent call at the moment. The song had to be rushed, so I borrowed a little time. Originally, they said it would be ready before 10 o'clock, but maybe it didn't go well, and it hasn't come out yet. Sister Ying Chen? Li Ying Chen? Xiaoling knows that she is the number one among the emperor's female singers today. One a quasi-diva level figure, her fame is not inferior to that of herself back then. She wants to use the shed, and rising stars like Luo have no choice but to give in. Xiaoling looked up at the clock on the wall. It was 11 o'clock. I wanted to ask Chu Chen to urge her, but then I thought, Luo, are you hungry? I'll take you to eat and find you a shelter in the afternoon. After you said that, I'm really a little hungry. Luo tilted his head, but no, Xiaoling, thank you for your kindness. I'd better wait here. Maybe Sister Ying Chen will show up at some time. Okay. Xiaoling, you just came to the emperor, so you may not know that all the sheds here are very full, so you can't find them if you look for them temporarily. Is that so? She was slightly startled and looked at Chu Chen. It's indeed difficult to find, Chu Chen said slowly, but then added, but it depends on who you are. If you want to use a shed, I can just arrange one temporarily. End of this chapter. Rebirth of the Entertainment Circle, Return of the Queen. Author, Xia Weining. Chapter 390. Chapter 390 Recording Studio Number 7. In other words, the troubles placed on others are just a piece of cake for him. Chu Chen was probably eager to please her, or perhaps he was so considerate to all his masters. Xiaoling remembered that in her previous life, she often recorded songs on a whim, using whatever studio she wanted. She had never paid attention to these details before, but now that she thought about it, it was probably a privilege and benefit. No wonder she was so annoying at that time. It's funny that she didn't know it. At the moment, she can't let Luo offend everyone. After thinking for a while, he said to Luo, go to dinner with me first. In the afternoon, you can use my studio to record songs. Her appointment today was with Feng Kun. Feng Kun must have left a place for her, and it would be no problem to give it to Luo. But, in that case, Xiaoling, what are you going to do? It doesn't matter to me in this life. Xiaoling once wanted to return to the top of the singing world, but that was just to prove herself, to prove that she could do it without Pei Ziyan. But now that her man has come back and she can't escape his support, reaching the peak is meaningless to her. She came to Feng Kun today to care about the baby in her belly and to kill time. Luo was very moved, but still refused. No, Xiaoling, I can't drag you down. She looked at Xiaoling with a pair of bright eyes, and was about to say something. Suddenly, A man's voice interrupted, Luo. Why are you still here? Come on, Li Yingchen has used the shed over there, hurry up, click in to catch up and finish recording early, it's Xia Yu's schedule at 1 p.m. Xiaoling turned around and saw a familiar figure, Zhou Bin, the emperor's old manager. Zhou Bin ignored her, but saw Chu Chen beside him. Mr. Chu, hello, hello. A smile appeared on his face. Chu Chen is now in charge of the entire emperor's brokerage department, which can be regarded as very majestic. Chu Chen frowned slightly. Miss Ye is going to have dinner with Luo. If you have anything else to do, we can wait until after dinner. Hence, although Zhou Bin didn't seem to see Xiaoling just now, at this moment, he instantly heard the importance in Chu Chen's words and focused his eyes on her. He hurriedly squeezed out a warm smile. So this is Miss Ye, whom I have admired for a long time. I have listened to your songs, and they are really great. No wonder you are so popular, ha ha, ha ha. These people have mastered the ability to adapt to the wind. Xiaoling was impatient and said to Luo, let's go and eat. Zhou Bin's smile froze on his face. Xiaoling, you really don't need to bother. Luo took her hand and said sincerely, I'll just hurry up and record the song now. You just came to the emperor and it's not easy for you. You don't have to do it this afternoon. Give me the recording studio, I can't take up your schedule. The kid looked determined, as if Xiaoling had made a big sacrifice. Xiaoling almost wanted to sigh. God knows, saying hello to Feng Kun was just a matter of effort. However, seeing Luo like this, she had no choice but to compromise. Okay then, you go and record first. I knew Xiaoling was the best. The girl in front of me laughed happily and waved her hand, then I'll go first. Seeing her skipping away, Xiaoling said to Chu Chen, let's go and eat. Chu Chen had no objection and accompanied her towards the restaurant. This recording studio building was built like a maze. The restaurant was at the other end, at the deepest point of the 3.5 floors. She and Chu Chen took the elevator to the 4th floor and came down again, walking along the circuitous corridors. Halfway through recording studio number 7, I heard the sound of quarreling. It's only 11:30, why don't you let me use it? It was Luo, who was angry and anxious. Xia Yu's appointment is for 1 o'clock in the afternoon, there is still an hour and a half, I record songs very fast. I will definitely be able to finish recording before 1 o'clock. You said you can finish the recording? If there is a delay, can you bear the responsibility? The other party did not give in at all. I can definitely finish the recording, Luo said anxiously. I'm just taking up a little bit of time at noon, which is originally a gap in the recording studio. I only need half an hour, or at most an hour, and I will definitely be able to finish the recording. The other party sneered, Luo, this is not a question of whether you can finish the recording. Miss Xia Yu needs to clear the venue before recording the song and do preparations. People waiting are not allowed in. Do you know what exemption means? You, don't bully others too much. Xiaoling frowned when she heard the quarrel. What's going on? She turned around and looked over, only to see Luo's little figure squeezed in the chaotic crowd, almost crying, looking so helpless. Opposite her, another group of people gathered around Xia Yu, looking cold and arrogant, clearly not taking her seriously. It's true that there are enemies on the same road. Xiaoling has been busy during this period, missing Li Lei and worrying about the child in her belly, so much so that she almost forgot that in addition to Luo, the emperor also had a good sister Xia Yu. The Xia Yu in front of me was wearing an elegant hand-embroidered dress and exquisite flower jewelry. She looked charming with light-colored makeup. She was like a frail princess, being held up by the crowd, and her eyebrows were lightly frowned, as if she had seen some lowly person and dirty things that were inconsistent with her status. Xiaoling couldn't help but walked over. What's going on? The man who was arguing with Luo turned around and saw that it was an unfamiliar actress, so he ignored her and dismissed her as nothing. On the other hand, Xia Yu's originally indifferent expression changed slightly. He glanced at her and then looked away with disgust. Chu Chen's voice came from behind, Miss Ye is asking a question, Zhao Jun, are you mute? Only then did those people see him. The attitude of the leader, the one who had just argued with Luo and ignored Xiaoling, immediately changed. Mr. Chu, it's you. Why did such a trivial matter alarm you? After saying that, he turned around, looked at Xiaoling with an attitude that was obviously more attentive than before, and answered her question, so this is Miss Ye. I'm sorry, I was unfamiliar with her for a moment. In fact, he had recognized Ye Xing a long time ago. I'm still wondering, what is a female singer who just left Dongyu doing in the Emperor's recording studio? Could it be that he joined the Emperor? Now looking at Chu Chen's attitude, maybe he has really joined the Emperor. But what if she joins the Emperor? Without Chu Chen's support, she would be just an ordinary actress. There is nothing too special among the star-studded emperors. Therefore, Zhao Jun did not intend to pay attention at first. But it's different now, Chu Chen is obviously protecting her. Zhao Jun said with a smile, misunderstanding, it's really a misunderstanding. Look, it's the recording time scheduled by Miss Xia Yu soon, but Luo Fei wants to enter the studio. This kid is so ignorant, we will deal with it immediately. End of this chapter.